If a doctor has told you you might need surgery for your hiatal hernia, stop and watch this video first. Surgery can be the right call for the right hernia, but it's not the simple fix that most people think it is. And there are things you really need to understand before you say yes. I'm going to walk you through the 5 things you need to know, and reason number 4 is the reason that many surgeries fail in the first place. Number 1 is surgery for a specific kind of hernia, but probably not the one you have. Most hiatal hernias are small and sliding. What that means is the stomach pushes up. You can see this little bulge, and it pushes up above your diaphragm, but then it comes back down. These are real, they cause real symptoms, but they are almost never surgical. The surgical conversation is mostly about large hiatal hernias and what's called paraesophageal hiatal hernias. Para means alongside. So you can see in the sliding, the stomach has pushed up into the esophagus. That's what this line is. This is your esophagus, the tube connecting your throat down to your stomach. So it just pushes right up into the esophagus. Para means alongside. So you can see that little blip of stomach has pushed up alongside the esophagus, not into it. It's the paraesophageal hiatal hernias that can become real surgical emergencies. The stomach can get trapped, it can twist, it can lose blood supply, and that's when it becomes a surgical emergency. So before anything else, you have to know what type of hiatal hernia you have and what is its size. If it's small to medium, 95% of them are that, and they're sliding. And the surgical conversation is not one that you need to know about. If you don't know which type you have, or you've been told surgery or nothing without looking at the root cause, that's exactly what we do here at Root Cause Medical Clinic. We work with patients across the country through telemedicine visits, so wherever you are listening to this, you can be helped. The link is below. Let's go on to number 2. There's more than one type of surgery. A common one is called a fundoplication. The fundus is just the top part of the stomach, and plication is folding. So you put the word together, they're taking the top part of your stomach and they're folding it, or correctly wrapping it around the esophagus to prevent acid reflux from occurring. So the Nissen, just named after the doctor who created it, is what's called a full wrap. So they're taking that upper part of the stomach, wrapping it around your esophagus fully, so 360 degrees. Another one is called the toupee, and that's a partial wrap. It's 270 degrees, so it's not a complete wrap. And you can see that opening there in the front where I've shown that it's, instead of wrapping completely, there's a little opening. The wrap is not completely enclose the esophagus. And that the design of that is to prevent some of the side effects, which we're going to go into. The surgeon usually also tightens the opening in the diaphragm itself to prevent the stomach from coming back up. But I want you to remember that step because that's central to why most of these surgeries fail. Let's go on to number 3. The short-term win or success is real. However, long-term is a different story. In the short term, these surgeries often work very well. The reflux stops, the individual can stop their medication, and they feel like they've gotten their life back. So that short-term success is very real. But you've got to look further than the first year. Side effects are common, not rare. Up to half of all patients have trouble swallowing or have a gas bloat feeling due to trapped gas. And that's because the wrap has made it difficult to expel gas the normal way, because it is normal to burp a little bit or belch a little bit. And after these surgeries, people can't do it, so they feel very bloated and distended. This results in what's called slowed stomach emptying. Food sits in the stomach too long, also making the person uncomfortable. There's a rare one. It's called dumping syndrome, and that's where everything moves too quickly through the stomach and the intestines, resulting in sweating, dizziness, and a racing heart after meals. There's also a nerve risk. Right alongside the esophagus lies the vagus nerve, and that can be damaged during surgery. The vagus nerve not only controls your stomach, but much of the rest of your digestive tract. Up to 1 in 5 patients have their vagus nerve damaged during surgery. And that can mean a stomach that doesn't empty properly. And here's the side effect that most people don't expect. A landmark long-term study followed patients for 10 years and found the majority of them were back on their reflux medication. They were right back where they started before the surgery. Newer techniques have improved upon that a bit, but unfortunately, we still find many patients have resumed their medication around that 10-year mark, sometimes even sooner. So the honest scorecard is short-term win, real side effects, potential nerve damage, and long-term no guarantee. So this raises the very important question of why does the surgery become undone? So that's on to number 4, why it fails, why does the repair come undone? Once you understand this, the whole picture changes. Failure runs anywhere from a few percentages up to 30%, depending on the study and depending on the patient. The bottom line is the wrap loosens, it slips, and the stomach migrates back up into your chest. Recurrence of the hernia accounts for up to 50% of all the failures. So think about what happens in the surgery. The surgeon tightened the diaphragm and built the wrap. These are stitches and tissue. Every single day, something's been pushing on that wrap such that it loosens and fails. That something is pressure. Doctors call it intra-abdominal pressure. It just means pressure building up in your abdomen. The root cause, the pressure, is never addressed, and over time that pressure is just pushing, pushing, pushing until ultimately the wrap fails. The surgery changes your anatomy, but it does nothing to address the root cause of why the hiatal hernia happened in the first place. Let's go on to number 5. The pressure isn't just about weight, being overweight. Pressure is the root cause. So a lot of times patients say, my doctor just says lose weight and that's going to handle my hiatal hernia. Weight can be the source of pressure, but it's not the only one. And for a lot of you, it's not even the main one. So let's look at what we have here. We have the wrap loosening. You can see that on the top right. And why? What's that pressure coming from that's building up and pushing up on the diaphragm and pushing up on the stomach? Weight, yes, that can be a factor. So can overgrowth, meaning bad bacteria overgrowing because things are moving too slowly through your stomach. Also because you've been on a proton pump inhibitor or some type of antacid medication that isn't allowing acid to do what it should do, which is kill bad bacteria in your food immediately upon entering your stomach. And when those bad bacteria and organisms are not killed, they happily propagate. They get into your small intestine, they get into your large intestine. That creates overgrowth, also known as dysbiosis, in your colon. And that overgrowth of bacteria creates inflammation and creates pressure. We also have constipation, or the bearing down when you're trying to move your bowels, having bloat, and having gas. These are some of the sources of the pressure. When we address the sources of the pressure, some people find they don't need the surgery. And some people who genuinely need it have a better chance of their surgery being a long-term success because those underlying root causes have been identified. So if you really need surgery, but it's not a medical emergency, then handling that pressure first is absolutely addressing why surgery tends to fail. So there's 2 pieces of good news. You might not need the surgery at all, or you have a better chance of making the surgery truly last. And that's the difference between managing a symptom versus getting to the root cause. The root cause is the part that's always left out, and that's exactly what we focus on. Now, there's one thing I don't want you to take the wrong way. If you have a large hiatal hernia or you have a paraesophageal hiatal hernia and your doctor is recommending surgery, you have to listen to them. These can become medical emergencies, and in that case, surgery is the right answer. Sudden severe chest pain, severe belly pain, vomiting, not being able to keep any food down, that's not wait and see. That's going to the emergency room right now. This video was never about avoiding surgery if you really need it, but it is about, if you really need surgery, making it last, and that nobody operates on you before looking at the root cause, because it could be avoided. The reason I made this video is for those of you, and you're in the majority, that have a small to medium sliding hiatal hernia, not the large and not the paraesophageal. In the case of the small to medium sliding hiatal hernias, and remember that represents 95% of them, what you need is help in addressing that pressure, because that's what's really creating the problem. Know which type of hernia you have and don't let anybody rush you into surgery that you might not need. You've been looking for answers for a long time. You're in the right place. I'll see you on the next one.